Here.
Speedy here.
Kuzikowski here. We're all here.
Item
Handler
2.
here.
Oh, I went too fast. Item 2 is minutes of the October 11, 2016 meeting.
Mr. Dickman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the October 11th, 2016 meeting.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye. Avich, aye.
Speedy aye.
Kuzikowski, aye. All aye.
Chandler abstains.
Item 3 is significant common council actions. Wow,
Hi.
Doug, how are you? Go ahead.
Oh, just not speaking to the significant council actions because I don't believe that there were any, but
None.
What's that council doing?
you tell me. No, but thank you. Good evening. Just wanted to take the opportunity this evening to introduce you to our new city administrator, Andrew Vickers. Andrew joins us from the village of Hobart, among other places, and I wanted to introduce him to you as the plan commissioners. Maybe give him an opportunity to make a brief introduction because I know you've got some business to attend to, but I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to meet Andrew.
We need to put the timer on you.
As Doug mentioned, my name's Andrew, coming from a suburb of Green Bay called the village of Hobart. Very happy to be here. I'm learning that you all are very busy people too, because there's a lot of information being passed my way on the developments and advancements of this community. So it's exciting, but I'm looking forward to hitting the ground running on Monday. Jerry will be here through this week. So look forward to working with all of you and meeting you individually. And thanks again.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you. All right. There was no significant common council action. Why did we put that on there if there wasn't any?
We keep that on there as an agenda item to make sure that we don't miss it.
I got it. Good answer. All right. Let's move on to sign appeal hearings. 4A is a public hearing on a proposed sign appeal for the property at 8081 South Hull Avenue submitted by Cave Enterprises, LLC. It would allow one 6-foot diameter round LED cabinet sign on the north elevation, one 6-foot diameter round LED cabinet sign on the south elevation, and one 27.8 square foot raceway mounted channel letter sign on the north elevation. Tax key number is 813-9022. Pete will read the public hearing notice.
Yes. The City of Oak Creek noticed a public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held Tuesday, October 25th, 2016 at 6 p.m. at the Oak Creek City Hall Common Council Chambers at 8040 South 6th Street, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is Cave Enterprises, LLC, also known as Burger King. Text key number 813-9022, located at 8081 South Howell Avenue, is requesting a variance from section 17.0706 I-1, which states any single or two tenant space shall be permitted one wall sign per street frontage. If granted, the variance would allow Burger King to install a total of 4 wall signs on the building, one 6-foot diameter wall sign on the east, north, and south elevations, and one, I have here, 16.01 square foot channel letter sign located on the north elevation of the property located at 8081 South Howell Avenue. Zoning of the property is B4CU, Highway Business District, conditional use. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 29th day of September 2016. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Signed, Mayor Steve Scafidi, Chairman. This is a public hearing, and anyone who wishes to make a comment regarding the subject of this hearing, to step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and proceed to address the commission with your comments. Mr. Mayor.
We'll make 3 calls for public comment on item 4A. First call. Second call. Third and final call for public comment on item 4A. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move on to the second public hearing. You don't want action on this. You want to wait for the public hearings, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'll move on to item 4B, which is a public hearing on a proposed sign appeal for the property at 7878 South Main Street. The tenant address is 7974 South Main Street, submitted by Robert Hacker Bauer Sign and Lighting Company, that would allow one 7-foot 6-inch by 2-foot 7-inch vertical illuminated blade sign on the southwest corner of the building for the Pizza Man tenant space, which is tax key number 813-9050. Pete will now read the public hearing notice.
Thank you. The City of Oak Creek noticed a public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held Tuesday, October 25th, 2016, 6 p.m. at the Oak Creek City Hall Common Council Chambers at 8040 South 6th Street, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is Robert Hacker, representing Pizza Man, tax key number 813-9050, located at 7978 South Main Street. The applicant's requesting a variance from section 17.0334, part of the General Development Plan and Regulating Plan, which states that wall-mounted signs, mounted solid flag signs cannot exceed 36 inches in width and 36 inches in height. If granted, the variance would allow the applicant to install one 7-foot 6-inch tall by 26-inch wide solid flag sign on the southwest corner of the entry facade of the tenant space located at 7974 South Main Street. Zoning of the property is DTS-MUPDD, Drexel Town Square Mixed Use Development District. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 29th day of September 2016. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Signed, Mayor Steve Scafidi, Chairman. Mr. Mayor.
Make 3 calls. First call for public comment on item 4B. Second call. Third and final call for public comment on item 4B. Seeing no one coming forward, we will close the public hearing and move on to 5, which is new business. And item 5A is a sign appeal request for the property at 8081 South Hull Avenue submitted by Cave Enterprises LLC that would allow one 6-foot diameter round LED cabinet sign on the north elevation, one 6-foot diameter round LED cabinet sign on the south elevation, and one 27.8 square foot raceway mounted channel letter sign on the north elevation, tax key number 813-9022. Questions or comment, Pete?
I just wanted to cite a couple of things out of the report. The commission has always brought up in the past, you know, why haven't we changed the sign code? We get a lot of sign appeals, and so I thought I just would add, you know, make a note of it that if you go up and down Howell Avenue, you know, there are many individual standalone businesses as well as multi-tenant businesses that do have more than one wall sign up and down Howell Avenue. Specifically in Drexel Town Square, you'll notice that most of the tenants there will even have 4 wall signs. Typically, those buildings do have 4-sided architecture. You know, the example I would cite would be Water Street Brewery. You know, they do have a sign on each elevation, but they do have quite a bit of architecture on each elevation as well. So there are multi-tenants. Corner tenants often have received approval for 2 wall signs. And so I just wanted to put a little context to what they're looking to do. And they're looking to put a total of 4 wall signs here on this particular building. You know, as the mayor stated, there's 6-foot button cabinet signs on the northeast and south elevations, as well as the home of the Whopper, which is the channel letter sign as well.
Is this identical signage-wise to the location on 13th and Rawson, roughly?
They do have additional wall signs. They have the ones like Have It Your Way. They were non-illuminated, aluminum brushed. They were added on, so they actually have more signage than this particular one.
Okay. This body approved that additional signage at the other location?
Yes, and as always, you know, I always enter on on your report the rationale for granting any variances, you know, through no public harm. Variance consideration include enhancements to the overall character of the neighborhood. The sign shall not result in undue concentration of signage, which renders it difficult or confusing to read existing signs. That the effect of the sign package would not have any depreciating property values of the area. And then lastly, the Plan Commission, you know, can consider location of the proposed sign, height, size, appearance, and number based on factors that the Plan Commission deems appropriate. So, you know, A through E is always in the report for your consideration. Typically, sign variances are on a case-by-case in their individual case itself, not necessarily what has been approved elsewhere.
I said it last time when the other location was being renovated, at least sign-wise, I think it improved the look of the building, as does this, considering the previous use and their aesthetics. You have a comment?
But the only comment is it's looking at the store that they've got on the 13th in Rawson. I mean, it looks pretty good. And when you look at this, I do think it'll enhance the building when they're done. And this building kind of stands a little bit by itself there. So I don't think that if we look at the conditions that Pete brought out, I just don't think that we'd be, you know, that any of these comments would be against, you know, them having these signs. So I'm all for this.
Yeah. Alderman Vakievich?
I'm all in on it too. It is their corporate logo. I completely understand. We went through this on 13th when they went through their corporate remodel, so I do not have a problem. This is not part of Drexeltown Square, but it does kind of spill over, so I think it's much needed.
Okay, any comments on this side? Seeing none, motion on 5A.
David will make a motion to grant a sign appeal for the property at 8081 South Howell Avenue submitted by Cave Enterprises that would allow one 6-foot round diameter LED cabinet sign on the north elevation, one 6-foot round diameter LED cabinet sign on the south elevation, and one 27.8 square foot raceway mounted channel letter sign on the north elevation.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Dunston, aye.
Really, aye.
David, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye. Crowell, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Moving on to item 5B, it's a sign appeal request for the property at 7878 South Main Street. Tenant address is 7974 South Main Street, submitted by Robert Hacker, Bauer Sign and Lighting Company, that would allow one 7-foot 6-inch and times or by 2-foot 7-inch vertical illuminated blade sign on the southwest corner of the building for the Pizza Man tenant space, tax key number 813-9050. Pete?
All right, thank you. As the mayor outlined, they are looking to get a variance from the sign code that exceeds the height and really the height of 36 inches for any solid blade sign located in Drexeltown Square. It will be internally illuminated cabinet constructed of aluminum. It'll be painted black, as you see in the illustration, with yellow lettering and exposed yellow bulbs. If the Plan Commission chooses to approve this blade sign, this will be the largest blade sign in DTS. Otherwise, the location of the sign does comply with the code, which we've talked at other sign appeals that have had blade signs on non-entry facades. As always, I'm not going to repeat it, but the same 5 criteria I mentioned from the last appeal, A through E, is in your report for your consideration when looking at granting a variance for this blade sign. Mr. Mayor.
All right, questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Correll.
Just as everything unfolds, I think these blade signs from a directional aspect are important. I think it looks good. Some sign's going to be the biggest, so I don't see an issue.
Okay. I would say that given the scale of the building, which is kind of unique for Oak Creek, so we don't have a lot of 3- and 4-story buildings, that the scale of the sign fits in nicely with the scale of the building. So I really wouldn't have any problems with it. I think it looks great. It's gonna be a popular corner, and I think people need to know where it is and how to get into the building and into the space. And I think this does both of those well. Other questions?
It's also serving both sides of the building, really, the way it's mounted on the corner. So serving both.
Wally, anything?
Yeah, I agree with all the comments so far. I did want to look at, normally that we would allow 9 square feet of sign, and this is 15 square feet. But because where it's located, and you can see it from a couple of directions, I'm all for it.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question for the applicant.
Okay, applicant. Come on up. Name and address for the record.
I'm Bob Hacker from Bauer Sign and Lighting, 2500 South 170th Street in New Berlin. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
in regards to the signage, so we're only referring to the one sign, the vertical sign?
Correct.
Okay, and is that the entrance right there?
The entrance will be right below that, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Right on that
Okay.
corner. Mhm.
And so the other sign has been approved already?
Yes, that came before the commission back in July.
Okay. And questions on why the sign is so large versus the standard?
Well, actually, it's already been downsized significantly in order to get it below that canopy for the second floor patio, if you will. This is consistent with their other identity signs and their other locations as well. Actually, slightly smaller.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the commission?
I have one
Alderman
question.
Guzikowski.
I don't recall, but on the west side of the building, is there a wall sign? There is, okay.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Other questions? Motion on 6B, or 5B rather?
Mr. Dickman makes a motion that the Plan Commission recommend approval of a sign variance allowing for the installation of a 7-foot, 6-inch tall by 2-foot, 2.5-inch blade sign located on the corner of the tenant space located at 7974 South Main Street, which is the Pizza Man location.
I'll second.
I heard Corral seconds. Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye. David, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5C is a sign plan review of a proposed sign plan submitted by Robert Hacker, Bauer Sign and Lighting for the Performance Running Outfitters commercial tenant portion of the building. Thank you, sir. At 7978 South Main Street, tax key number 813-9050. Pete or Carrie?
I'll
Carrie?
take this one. This is a sign plan review for the Performance Running Outfitters tenant space in the same building that we were just discussing with Pizza Man. The proposal is for one 2-sided circular cabinet sign, which looks like this, measuring 2 feet 1 inch tall by 2 feet 1 inch wide. That excludes the black bracket. Some points of interest for this particular sign: it is the only one that is being requested at this time, so any future signs would have to come back to the Plan Commission for that review. This is, excuse me, this is a blade sign. This will be located just south of the tenant entrance on the west elevation of the building. It is constructed of face-routed aluminum, which will be painted white, and there will be white plexiglass behind that. Black vinyl overlays will provide the copy and those logo graphics, which will be internally lit. So it'll look a little bit different than just a plastic face, because it'll have that brushed aluminum on it, or actually painted aluminum. So portions of this will be illuminated, the legs, the copy, and then the rest will actually be dark. This is the proposed location. Again, they are a corner tenant on the northwest corner. The sign is considered a blade sign per the DTS MUPDD. Dimensions and location are in compliance with those requirements for DTS. Blade signs must be mounted at least 8 feet from grade. This requirement should be included in the plans when submitted with the permit applications, just so that everybody is on the same page about the height requirement. No other signs, again, are proposed at this time. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the sign plan submitted by Robert Hackard of Bauer Sign and Lighting Company for the Performance Running Outfitters commercial tenant portion of the property at 7978 South Main Street, subject to conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor.
Looks good. Nice looking sign. Blade signs are definitely the sign du jour in Drexel Town Square, which I think is kind of cool. Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Chandler.
I have a question for the
Once again, Bob Hacker, Bauer Sign and Lighting, 2500 South 170th, New Berlin.
Okay,
Yes,
so once again, where the location arrow is the entrance for this store to the right of that?
To the left. Their entrance door is actually on the corner. The other 2 doors are actually in their space as well, but their entrance doors could be on the corner.
So is there any other signage?
No, this would be the only sign they're asking to put up.
And a question for Carrie. So why is it not compliant?
No, it is compliant.
It is compliant.
Oh, it is.
There it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's just a
we're
regular.
good.
Yep.
This sign, just as an addition, is quite unique in that it's a routed panel, so only the copy areas will illuminate. But it's very nice.
Is it LED?
All LEDs, yes.
Other questions or comments?
Good.
Motion on 5C.
David, I'll make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the sign and plan submitted by Robert Hacker, Bauer Sign and Lighting Company for the Performance Running Outfitters commercial tenant portion of the property at 7978 South Main Street with following conditions. 1, that all revised plans be submitted and reviewed for approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of sign permit applications. And 2, that a permit application for the sign is submitted to the inspection department.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
David, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to 5D, that's a review of a certified survey map submitted by Russell Legg, Aurora Healthcare, combining the properties at 9444, 9454 South Howell Avenue, and 200 and 228 East Ryan Road. Tax key numbers as listed. Carrie.
As the mayor mentioned, this is a request to combine the 4 properties at the corner of Howell and Ryan Road. This is in anticipation of Aurora remodeling the existing building that is on the property. They'll be using that for their health clinic, and one of the floors, I believe, will be left vacant at this time. However, they are planning to remove the existing structures on the 2 acquired properties along Howell Avenue and expand some of their parking for their facility. Site and landscape plans for that expansion have been submitted for Plan Commission review at an upcoming meeting, so be on the lookout for that. Comments have been received from the water and sewer utility regarding abandonment of unused laterals and the requirement for a 10-foot sanitary sewer easement along the proposed west property line per the design manual. Those have been provided to the applicant's consultant. And just so that everybody is aware, access to the site is controlled by DOT. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Russell Legg of Aurora Healthcare for the properties at 200 and 228 East Ryan Road and 9444 and 9454 South Howell Avenue be approved subject to conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor.
So a long overdue and eagerly anticipated update of a troublesome corner in Oak Creek, which people ask us about all the time. I think it's spectacular, especially given the users. So I would certainly have no problems. Do you have a comment, Mr. Degner?
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. I've used the Aurora Healthcare at Howell and Pute's many times, and I just don't understand if this is going to eliminate the Aurora Healthcare that's in Drexel Town Square. That is a large structure with parking.
Mr. Degner, there's not an Aurora facility in Drexel Town Square. That's Freidert.
That's Freidert, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. In other words, they're going to close up the one on
that I don't know.
Howell
That's outside of our scope tonight. What they do with the other facility they have, I don't know.
Well, that would appear, though, as they're closing up the one on Pute's and Howell and redoing the one on Ryan, then perhaps.
We're talking about the Ryan facility tonight,
all right.
not any of the other facilities. You're welcome. Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Dickman.
I guess I can assume then, Carrie, that the 2 buildings that are on the corner of Howell are going to be torn down?
They will be.
Okay, I thought they would, but I just thought.
Do we have a timeline for that?
A timeline for demolition, that I'm not aware of. However, site plans are submitted for the Plan Commission's review probably at the next meeting.
For winter, do you think, or not that?
That I don't
aggressive?
have that information. I apologize.
I'm seeing a few folks in the audience
Nodding
nodding yes. That would be awesome. Just the fact that it's going to happen is awesome. So we're not going to put any time pressures on you. Other questions or comments? Motion.
Carl moves that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Russell Legg, Aurora Healthcare for the properties at 200 and 228 East Ryan Road and 9444 and 9454 South Howell Avenue be approved with the following conditions. 1, that all easements are shown and clearly labeled on the map prior to recording. 2, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate, geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes, are made prior to recording.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Bill, aye.
David, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Aye.
All right. 5E is a rezone request by the City of Oak Creek to rezone portions of the properties at 9180 South 5th Avenue and 4240 East Ryan Road from A1. Thank you.
Thank you.
A1 limited agricultural and RM1 multifamily residential to P1 Park District, excluding the LOD Lakefront Overlay District. Tax key numbers as listed. Carrie.
Yes, thank you. This is a request to have the boundaries of Lake Vista Park rezoned for park purposes. As we are going to be constructing the park elements beginning hopefully this fall and continuing into next year, we wanted to change the zoning and have that reflect the park boundaries. This is not intended to be parcel boundaries, however. This is just intended for zoning at this time. The boundary that's proposed is outlined in black. That includes all of the park elements and some of the trails that go down to the bluff. In fact, all of the trails except for possibly ones that are right next to the road. The parcels or the areas that are not, I shouldn't say parcels, they're the areas that are not included in the proposed zoning district boundary may become available for private development and require rezoning in the future. Those areas are to be determined at this point, but this does allow for those development areas to occur. There is one exception. It's not shown on this map, but there is a drainage way that extends from approximately where the bird blinds here on the southern portion of the upper park down to what used to be called Ryan Road. That area is to be protected. It's a sensitive area. It cannot be developed. So we're looking at ways of making that zoning appropriate, whether it be park or whether we create some kind of conservation district. Staff is researching that right now. Once we figure that out, we will bring it to the commission at a later date. But for right now, I'd like to get your feedback on the proposed zoning district boundary, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. But the staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves the rezoning of portions of the properties at 9180 South Fifth Avenue and 4240 East Ryan Road from the A1 Limited Agriculture on RM1 Multifamily Residential Districts to P1 Park District, which excludes the LOD Lakefront Overlay District after a public hearing. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Any questions from the commission? Seems pretty straightforward. Commissioner Dickman?
Carrie, in our packet, we've got two location maps. One of them shows checked in red, the larger area, but the only area of that that's going to be rezoned is the one that's shown for the park?
Yes. The red outline shows the entirety of the two properties that the city owns. What's being proposed is just the zoning district boundary that would include all elements of the park and all elements of the park as they've been designed right now. So again, the areas that are not included in there, except for that exception for the sensitive area that we're talking about, those could be developed later or could be brought back to the commission for rezoning for private development purposes. When and if that happens, we'll have more of an idea of the size, the location, the basic kind of boundaries for those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, motion on 5. Oh, Mr. Degner.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. How does this affect the TIF district that we've going to have to use to defray the cost of this? Does this increase the problems in getting the cash needed to accomplish this, or is all this zoning of no consequence?
You have any comments, Doug? To me, this doesn't really relate to that TIF discussion, but let's bring up Director of Community Planning and Development to talk about that.
Because there was a large area in Carrollville that was required to be in a TIF district along Fifth Avenue and south in order to defray the cost. Is this then a part of this TIF district that will be required with all this residential and everything else?
Thank you very much, Arden. And the TIF district, which has not been presented to the council yet, we anticipate that will happen within the next few meeting cycles, would potentially and actually likely will include the park property. It's not, I wouldn't say it's common to have parks within TIF districts. It's not unheard of. I mean, TIF Pit 8, for example, had a portion of Mardian Park within it, also has some conservancy areas. So while it is part of that, some of the infrastructure that will be servicing some of the private development sites will be included as part of that. There will be multiple zonings within this district, but you're right. I mean, the park would be included as part of that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just we wanted to make sure that the zoning of that property was reflective of the use, and certainly with the investment that's being made by the city in opening up that lakefront to the public and providing facilities that were driven by the community input, it's certainly an appropriate mechanism to rezone that for park purposes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wouldn't Emerald Preserve be another example?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, and that's a newly created TIF, relatively new. Other questions or comments? Motion on 5E.
The Tickman makes a motion, the Plan Commission recommend that the Common Council approves the rezoning of portions of the properties at 9180 South 5th Avenue and 4240 South East Ryan Road from A1 Limited Agricultural and RM1 Multifamily Residential to P1 Park District, excluding the LOD or the Lakefront Overlay District after a public hearing.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Avich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Morel, aye.
Aye.
And finally tonight, item 5F is a Plan Commission presentation on the final plans for Lake Vista Park. Carrie.
Yes, thank you. This is actually providing information to the Plan Commission so that you are all aware of the final plans for the Lake Vista Park project. These are the plans that were approved by the council and awarded for bid recently. This is the overall development plan. It's what you've seen in prior presentations. There have been no major changes to the overall development plan at this point. What I'm going to do is kind of go through the same areas that I went through with the Plan Commission at the first presentation of the park, along with some of the design elements that were slightly changed, and those were for what we call value engineering, allowing some savings, cost savings for the project. What we did in selecting these things were go for the elements that could be changed without changing the overall intent of the design of these buildings. There were also some value engineering elements that were incorporated into the overall design. It did not change the aesthetic. It did not change the placement of anything. It did not change the quality. What we were looking for was a comparable material that would provide, again, the aesthetic that the design committee was looking for when they were going through the design of the park, just looking for some cost savings. The form liner concrete provides the same aesthetic to the exterior of the building, but it provides some cost savings from the original material on the building. Nothing else was changed here in terms of building materials. However, there were some concerns for the outdoor fire pit. Some of them were safety concerns, other were programmatic concerns and cost concerns. When we melded all of those together, that was one of the things that we thought could be removed for addressing those concerns, and the council agreed. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be added in at a later date, but for this purpose, it has been removed from the bid project. These are just showing, again, the other areas, the other elevations of the Upland Pavilion, again, incorporating that form liner concrete, same aesthetic to the exterior of the building, a minor change to the roof element that provides some cost savings there. It doesn't change the aesthetic at all. I'd be hard pressed to actually explain how much of a change, because you really can't even see from these images what the change to the roof is. Now you'll see in some of these that there's an RCA option that stands for Rinka Chung Architecture. That was the original design, and the VE option, which is the value engineering option. Some of the VE options we did not propose to the commission and to the council, and ultimately those did not make it in. So for instance, the trellis did not get changed. The trellis is going to remain as it was originally designed. So those are some things that were options that we did not present for council recommendation. Again, just showing a different option for cost savings. We did not change the RCA option for the windows. In other words, the windows are remaining. The only things that are changed that we incorporated here were, again, the change to the form liner concrete and removing the exterior fire pit. If we move on to the Upland Pavilion, or I'm sorry, the Upland Playground, there were no changes here. There were no changes to the playground equipment or the layout. If anybody has any questions about these 3 different areas, feel free. But again, they are the same that were presented to the Plan Commission previously.
Is there any, can you make, for comparison purposes, how big this playground is compared to anything we have in the city right now? In the parks, is there anything on this scale?
I would have to defer to Pete.
No, this will be the largest playground facility in the city. All our neighborhood parks are smaller than this. They don't have as many signature pieces like the zip line and the Mobius strip, which is that climbing wall. We don't have that in other neighborhood parks. As you can see, this has a kind of almost like certain areas of the younger kids, you know, older, and we don't have that in our other parks. So yeah, this is definitely larger and unique compared to the other neighborhood parks in the city.
There were a couple of changes to the sail shelters. If you'll recall, originally they were going to be a custom design with some stone pillars. That turned out to be incredibly cost prohibitive once we received the bids in. So what we opted for were a stock option that would provide the same kind of shelter that we were going for there. Still have the sail aesthetic, still have the same number of anchor points, but it provides us with a little bit more flexibility, some cost savings there, still providing the shade in the areas for the earth forms that we had discussed at the design committee. The bird blinds that were originally presented are in the same location, same design. There were no changes to those. The beacon also did not change. What I did was give you the east and west elevations that were provided in the plans, just in case anybody had an idea, question of what they would look like. The images are slightly different from what was presented just because we have more angles, but otherwise that design did not change.
And how tall is that?
Good question. I don't know. 22 feet? Over 22 feet,
it's
I think.
Substantial, yeah.
Yes.
2 stories.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't make out the exact height, but it's over 20 feet. Overlook area did not change either in design. Excuse me. The low walls, I believe, had some value engineering, mostly just in terms of taking into consideration some suggestions made by the construction companies that provided bids in terms of not having one full piece but having a modular piece. It just allowed for easier construction. Didn't change the aesthetic at all. It just provided a different option and a little bit of cost savings there.
Are we doing the landscaping, or is this part of the bid? Is it part of the bid?
I believe this portion was included in the bid.
Okay.
The overall landscaping for the rest of the park, there were portions that had to be part of the bid, and then there are portions that the city reserved for budgetary purposes that would be done by city staff.
Which they've done on some of the areas around Drexel Town Square that look fantastic.
Nature and Adventure Playground, the only things that really changed here were some comments that were incorporated from staff and feedback that we received from the commission as well as the design committee regarding some of the stamps that were going to be in the concrete paths. You'll notice that the plaza area, that's that circle on the left-hand side in the blue call out, that no longer has a footprint or an emblem in the circle. It's more just a design area there. There might also be one slight change here in the the switchbacks that are in here, that might actually prove to be on the ground quite difficult. So one of the switchbacks may be taken out in favor of just a one loop connection kind of thing. I don't have any plans to show you for how that would look, but it would just only change. It would change in one location. I believe the switchback is, you see my arrow here in the center? Instead of making this loop, it would just connect the two nodes here.
For the public, this would have 3 different surfaces: mowed, concrete, and mulch.
Gary, are we obligated to clear the concrete in the wintertime?
Don't believe so.
No, that's something that would be a programming thing within the Parks Department. We're talking about either, trying to encourage snowshoeing, something like that during the wintertime. But at this point, that hasn't been decided whether or not we're going to clear that.
We're obligated to do Emerald Preserve, aren't we?
It's been discussed. No, we don't have to, but it's been discussed if we, given the activity on this site, if we want to make the decision to do that going forward, I would suggest that we do. I see the traffic already out here that people want to walk around, so.
Yeah, one of the concerns that's going to deal with Emerald Preserve compared to other parks is if, one thing to plow it, but if we have to salt it, we're next to wetlands. So we have to be concerned about how we're going to clear that pathway in a safe manner for
because
residents.
In the wooded area, you're not going to get the melt. So if you don't have every bit of moisture after that, will freeze to ice. And I walked out there last year, and it can be slick out there. So, but that's something we're thinking about.
Some of the things that changed on the Bluff shelters were the exact same things that changed on the Upland shelter. Instead of having the original material, it was changed to a form liner concrete. Again, provides the same aesthetic, but provides us with some cost savings there. The fireplaces were also eliminated for programmatic and safety concerns. Didn't really provide much in the way of cost savings, but there were concerns about, should this be wood burning? Should it be gas? How do you control for that? How do you maintain safety? How are you going to provide those things? It provided such a logistic concern and safety concern that it was decided to be eliminated. There was also a change to the roof. Instead of having what they're called battens, that was changed to a membrane roof component. That was also for cost savings. The reason that staff was recommending that is because nobody's really going to see the roof. So the top of the roof, it's not really going to change the aesthetic at all. The wood deck overlook, that did not change in the final plans. So what you saw before is exactly what you're seeing now. And finally, miscellaneous park elements. These are just some things that were updates from the previous presentation. We are going to have the bollard lighting that is going to be scattered throughout the park. You'll see some entry signage for both of the Bluff shelters, as well as the proposal for the entry sign for the park itself. Some of the stone benches were going to be similar to the stone benches that we have here at the City Hall and Library Building. And then the super graphics I just thought were kind of an interesting feature. There's nothing else like this in the city. They are metal super graphics denoting which restroom facility you'd like to use. And that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioner Dickman.
Kerry, when you talked about the shade sails,
yes,
back there, what are those made out of? And are we going to have a problem with the winds? Because when you're up on that high part of the bluff there, the winds get kind of strong sometimes. Is that going to be a problem or what?
The sails themselves are made from a canvas-like material. The tethers, I believe, are like a wound metal. They do have a wind load for each of these tethers, the posts and everything. All of the shade sails that are, shall we say, stock, they do have wind loads, they do have snow loads, they do have those things that are provided in their specs. We have the ability to remove the sails should we need should
Big
that-
storm or something coming? or something?
Yep,
Okay.
or if they need to
Good.
be repaired, something like that. We do have that option of doing that.
That's your job, Wally.
Yeah, you know, see, I'm retired, I'm always looking for things to do.
Yeah,
And I'm
Is
not,
it a paying job?
I'm not familiar with the exact connections, how easy or difficult that would be, how long it would take. Those are things that we probably want to, we'd take a look at and see. I don't think there's any kind of quick release or anything on there, but
Yeah.
anyway.
And also, the second question, because you've eliminated the fire pits around, so people can bring their own charcoal grills in, correct? In these
believe-
areas?
That would be just normal park
So are there
rules that would
containers,
apply.
I was getting around, are there containers around then for them to put their hot coals in when they're done? That's always a concern.
Well, we have some plans for such things as trash receptacles and things like that. We haven't decided on exactly which ones we're going to purchase, but yeah.
It'd be a similar process that we have for Miller Park. We have the hot coal bin in the middle, and we know trash receptacles. So at this point, we don't know how it's going to be used, so we don't know where the locations will be at this point.
Thank you.
other questions?
The final Bluff shelter design, it looks like the RCA has slats, but we chose to go to glass.
No. As with the Upland Pavilion, they provided some options. We did not go with that. The only one that we went with was changing to form liner, changing the roof material, and then eliminating the fireplace. Otherwise, the design is as the design committee saw.
And those are slats.
Yes.
Wood, right?
Yes.
Still.
They provided a perforated metal panel as an option. We decided not to go that route. We thought it changed the look of the shelter too much.
The best example would be the Drexel Town Square sign. You know, that metal behind Drexel, that's what it was, kind of that material.
So where the fireplace was, it looks like there's a number there. So that's still just a solid.
That's a wall.
A wall. Kind of
Yeah,
thing?
and that the number is identifying shelter number whatever. So here's as you're walking toward the shelter on the bottom, that's what you would see, except you wouldn't see the perforation. You would see the metal slats or the slats that are on the roof line.
Are the shelter buildings going to be rentable?
Yes.
Okay, that's why we numbered them. Okay.
They're going to come up with some type of creative names, or are they just going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4? And
There's only 2, and they're on the bluff. I don't think that we had thought of any design or any naming for those. So shelter.
There's 2, right?
There's 2.
There's a revenue generator, Guzikowski
There you
shelter
go.
would probably go really good for the right price.
no, I didn't know if there would be part of the theme with Lake Vista and whatnot. So
No, we haven't talked
we
about
haven't done
naming any of the buildings or the shelters. So, I mean, shelter 1 and 2, it's a placeholder, or that could just be an identifier.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
And Pete. Motion to adjourn.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 6:48.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo.
David Chai.
Speedy, yes.
Guzikowski, yeah.
Crowell, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday, I believe, right?